The Honourable Annette King.
Mr Speaker, the Labour Party supports this bill. As the Minister said, this bill has been to the Select Committee. We had a number of submissions, not many, but a small number of submissions on this bill. And the Select Committee considered it. We raised a number of issues, which I'll go through in a moment, but we did not vote against it and we did not make amendment to it. It does not mean that we weren't concerned about the issue of curtailing democracy in a district health board, and we did our best in terms of this bill itself to raise the issues that this was to be a short-term solution for one triennial period of a district health board election. That our expectation is that there would be elections at the next one in 2019. The reason why we have supported this bill is because this is a district health board that has been in serious trouble for some time. In fact, from 2009, the government had put in a Crown monitor. They'd also put in intensive monitoring of this DHB. And I don't blame the DHB for the problems they were getting into. If you go back and look at what was happening to that DHB, you will see there was a decision made, a political decision made by the former Minister of Health to merge two DHBs, the Southland DHB and the Otago DHB. Merge them without the background work that was needed to see what the impact and cost would be on that region. And it became quite clear after a number of years that the funding formula for that part of New Zealand does not fit that particular now amalgamated DHB. And in fact, if you look at the funding formula, and I'm sure the local members who are sitting here today will be aware of this, the funding per head of population for the rural component of the population-based funding formula is higher in South Canterbury than it is in the Southern DHB. So this is a DHB that has been under financial pressure for some time and struggling to do what was required of it. So it got itself into a position where there was a lot of loss of confidence in the board itself, a loss of confidence by the public, a loss of confidence by the staff, and certainly the Minister said a lack of confidence in the board, which led to him dismissing the board. I have to say, a number of us asked why he wasn't taking action a lot earlier because of the impact it was having on the morale of the people and the staff in the Southern DHB. Then, having made the decision and putting in a commissioner, he then followed up with this bill, which requires the District Health Board, as I said, not to hold an election in 2016, to postpone that election and keep in place a commissioner. And so that we look very closely at that decision, and one of the things we were keen to do, if it's going to not to be an election, that there be far greater transparency and openness by the commissioners than there had been by the board. Unfortunately, there'd been a loss of confidence in the board for some of the decisions that were seen to be made in private without the public being aware. And the members from Southland will be particularly aware of discussions the board at that time was having to cut the budget in places like Oamaru and Maniatoto and Queenstown and Dunstan and Balclutha by up to 5% to try and save money. And so there had been a considerable loss of confidence in what they were doing. So now that a commissioner has been put in, and we said, right, there has to be a lot more transparency and a lot more consultation with the people of the southern area so that they can have some confidence that the change process that has been put in place is going to work. So at the Select Committee, and we were represented at that committee by the National Party, of course, the Labour Party, the Green Party and New Zealand First, and we did question about what that transparency would look like. We, in fact, asked that it be written into the bill that there be transparency, that they must consult. Interestingly, that it wasn't that long after that the commissioners themselves announced, actually on the 27th of April, that they were now going to be more transparent. They were going to be holding DHB committee meetings in April, in public from this month. They said that this was the power of the Select Committee, I think, because we made it very clear we expected more openness, more consultation and more transparency. So having heard that, and it was reported, I have to say, in the excellent reporting done in the Otago Daily Times by Eileen Goodwin, who has done a brilliant job in holding the board to account as far as it was possible, but now holding the commissioners to account, it was reported that they will be holding meetings, open meetings, for the Hospital Advisory Committee, the combined meeting of the Disability Support Advisory and Community and the Public Health Advisory Committee. They will be held in public. So I'm taking that as a win. There was a submission from Ngāi Tahu. They wanted to know whether it was able for them to be provided as a representative, to be appointed as a Deputy Commissioner. We received a letter at the Select Committee from the Clerk of the Committee, and the Clerk of the Committee advised us that such an amendment, if we were to put it into this bill, would be beyond the scope of the bill as it was introduced. And so we did consider that, Mr. Speaker, but on the advice of the Clerk of the House, it was not possible to consider that and to put it into this bill if we had decided to do that. And so, Mr. Speaker, we now have got to the position where we have returned this bill without amendment and without any minority reports. We don't say that it is a good thing that we cancel democracy, but it's not the first time it's been done. And what must be the overriding issue here is that we do return to open elections by 2019. We will certainly be doing that in government, but if heaven forbid that we have to have a fourth term of this government, we will certainly be saying we will not tolerate what happened for Environment Canterbury, where a promise was made to hold elections and then delayed with some jiggery-pokery going on about how they want to restructure the organisation of ECANS. We will not tolerate that. We'll make it clear and putting it on the record now. This is until 2019 that this election is delayed. And in that time, we would expect in the budgets that are coming, Mr. Speaker, that the proper adjustments are made to help the Southern DHB meet their obligations. There has been a review of the funding formula. Much to my disappointment, there is little or no change. So how they are going to address the funding problems of the southern area, I'm not yet quite sure. But I'm sure, as the Minister said, 21 sleeps to go. We will be waiting to see exactly what is done to address one of the fundamental problems of that area, the funding and the funding formula for them. So, Mr. Speaker, we do support the second reading of this bill. And I will be pleased when the Minister is in the chair for the committee stages, for I want him on record to say that he expects and would guarantee there will be elections in 2019, not 1919, although he probably comes from that era when you listen to him sometimes, but 2019, that there will be elections at the Southern District Health Board in line with every other district health board in New Zealand. So, Mr. Speaker, yes, we do support the second reading of this bill.